Hello everyone, welcome back to Crafting with Slavie. If this is your first time here, welcome. In today's card video, we're going to be making these two cards, and I used the Simon Says Stamp Rest Queen stamp set to make these two cards. I love this stamp set. I myself have wavy curly hair, and I just fell in love with this as soon as I saw it, so I knew I had to use it in a card project. I'm also going to link above here to my unboxing video that I put out last week, because I did talk about this stamp set and I got a few more goodies in there that I'm going to be linking back and forth to that I'm going to be making cards with. So make sure you check that out. If you are new to my channel, please consider subscribing if you like what you see so far. And if you are returning or if you're new but you like what you see, make sure you hit the like button. And let's get into it. So that was me just stamping and die cutting all of my little images from the stamp set using my Misty. I just recently got the Fawn Jet Black ink in one of my Simon Says stamp hauls. And I thought it would be fun to try it out instead of my normal Memento Tuxedo Black ink that I use to stamp out my images. I have to say I really like it. It is, I can't quite verbalize why it's different, but it's good. It doesn't, it's very Copic friendly, which I really enjoy because, you know, if you follow me and you watch my channel, that I like to do a lot of Copic coloring. So I was quite impressed with its ability to stand up to my Copic blending. And then I also got to use some of my new oxide inks. So I used Tumbled Glass, Spun Sugar, Worn Lipstick, and Wilted Violet to ink blend my background. And then I just got some new Deco foil, so I thought it would be fun to take some of my pixie spray and attach this beautiful Starry Night stencil from Fawn. Sorry, Starry Sky stencil from Fawn. And then put my Deco Foil Transfer Gel Blanco over top of it. Now with this gel, you do have to wait about, well, first of all, you have to wait for the panel to dry completely. And then when the panel is dry, once you apply the transfer gel, you do have to wait about an hour. And then when that's done, you just run it through a laminator. So this is my inexpensive Amazon Basics laminator that I got a little while ago, and all of this stuff is linked below, guys, so make sure that if you are interested, you go below to see where I got all my supplies from. And then we're gonna get a little bit into the coloring. And I realized that now that I've been on my channel for a while, I've made a handful of cards using Copics. I should probably talk about how I do my Copic coloring, because I kind of use a mix of techniques, I guess. So when I'm blending out my colors, I do like to flick, but I also kind of dot the color on, and then I just kind of blend it out. But mostly when I was editing this video, I came across when I was coloring the girls, and a lot of these colors that I have chosen, I actually use Sandy Allnock's hexagon chart for Copics, which I will link below to her shop so you can go and purchase it for yourself. It's $5.99 US, and I have to say it is well worth the money. It has opened up my Copic coloring scheme, I guess, and I've been using it probably since last fall. And I've found combinations of colors that I wouldn't have thought of before because of this chart. So like the greens that I used in this video, I found through that chart, and even the blues, like the blues are weird in Copics. I don't know if you have Copic markers, but if you do, I'm sure you can relate. And the violets are weird, like they don't go together like you would think that they do. And so it's really nice to have the hex chart, because then you can see what kind of goes together and how you can possibly blend, and of course swatching it out. And I do have a swatching video coming, so keep an eye out for that. I will come back to this video and link it above once I have it done and published for you guys. And then please bear with me here. I have never drawn people before. So I am using YR00 and YR61, which you wouldn't think to use together, again from my hex chart, and I am coloring this skin tone. I actually really like it. Actually, that's a lie. I have drawn people before, but I drew Santa and Mrs. Claus, and I'm not sure that counts because we can all pretend that it's magic. So, you know. Anyways, and then I used E33 and 35 to get a darker skin tone. This actually came out a lot darker than I thought it would, but I liked it. So it's kind of nice for me to have these options. And if you have any suggestions for me, I will gladly take them. I have a really hard time finding color combinations in Copics for skin tones that don't include like 7 of the different markers, and I usually just use 2 because all the images that I color are pretty tiny, so I don't want to get bogged down with too much coloring. Now the other thing that I do too when I color, especially when I'm coloring a large space, and you'll kind of see this a little bit better, you might have seen it when I colored those blue blankets, but there's a couple other blankets that I'm going to color. And what I do is I actually put down my darkest shade first, and I put it where the shadows would be. So I just assume that the light is coming from pretty much directly at the person. So wherever the character is facing is kind of where I imagine the shadow to be. And so I'll put it in the shadowed areas, and then I'll go over just that part and I'll flick out in the lighter color, and then I'll go back over it and I'll cover the whole area. So there's going to be only one layer of ink in the lightest area, because when you are using Copic colors, the more times that you go over an area, the darker and more concentrated that color becomes. So I have found that if I have hard to blend colors, you need to use more ink. That's just a given with Copics. So, but I still want that lighter area. I don't necessarily want it to be super, super dark. So that's kind of what I do. Let me know if that doesn't make a lot of sense, and I can do a follow-up video where I actually explain what I'm talking about, hopefully a little bit better, and actually show you as I'm doing it. Okay, so from there, I just colored all the girls in semi-coordinating ways. I wasn't intending to have them coordinate like that. It ended up working out that way though, and I'm actually quite happy with the result. There was something really nice about the coordination. Alright, so then I just went on to finish coloring their pajamas, and I have never colored hair before, with the exception of Mr. and Mrs. Santa Claus. I did color their hair, but it was gray, and I just followed kind of the same thing that I normally do, which is from the outside, do a little bit of shading, and then just kind of bring it into white, because I do like to use the C00 and C1 to color white areas and just have a little bit of that gray shading, I guess. So for the hair, I tried to kind of do this like swirling motion because all of these lovely ladies have curly hair. So that's the effect that I was going for. I don't know how effective I was. As I said, I do need to practice coloring hair, but I unfortunately don't have a lot of stamp sets that have hair. Most of my stamp sets, as you know, are lawn fawn, and they have critters and they're adorable, but I do want to get into coloring people, and I do have a couple of stamp sets. So that's something that you guys would like to see, is just how I play around with just coloring and getting better at my coloring. Please let me know in the comments below, and I will gladly put something like that together for you sometime later this year. I do want to kind of be a little different this year, I guess, not just with card making, because I feel like with card making, there's just so much more to it than just the card making. If you know what I'm saying, hit the like button. You have to find a way to store all of your stuff and organize it so that you don't lose your mind. And then there's different coloring techniques, and then there's different techniques. So there's just so much to card making, and I just love it more every day because it's just so multifaceted and interesting, and it just doesn't get boring. Okay, so I'm going to take a step back from the rest of this coloring. There's not much left, and I will be back for the assembly. Okay, so for those who really pay attention, you've noticed by now that I have 4 curlies and I only have 2 cards that have 3 of them on there. And that is because I screwed one up. So I originally wanted to do a redo of the reverse slider card that I did back in, I think it was last summer. I'll link it here in the top right hand corner so you can go check it out. And I think I mentioned it in a different video. I was very disappointed in my assembly of said card because as soon as I gave it to the recipient, I was all proud of myself and showing them how it worked, and the thing fell apart on me. So I have just been dying to redo the card since then. And so I went about making a new card here, and I did pull out the Let's Toast pull tab pieces to get this piece that I'm adhering right now, as well as the little notch die that comes out. And I think, I haven't measured, but I think it's the same notch that you get in the waving pull tab. So you don't necessarily need to have Let's Toast. And then the little spaces, that's from My Favorite Things, and I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it's linked below. It's the only thing that I used for My Favorite Things today. And I put the foam adhesive around it so that it had room to move. I think that putting down that little cover thing so it doesn't get all floppy was one of my mistakes that I made on this first card. And the second one, so I used staples this time around. Last time I only used glue, and I thought it was the glue that made it come apart, but I'm thinking that it's just the way that this card is assembled on the whole. So when you are using staples, you have to make sure there's no catch points. I think that's where I went wrong with this card. It got caught somewhere in there, which is why I'm also saying not to use the little thing that makes it not wobble in the back, because I think that's probably what made this card just completely fall apart in my hands. And I do include that footage here because I think it's really important as a card maker and in life in general to embrace our mistakes so that we can learn from them. And there was a couple of things that I learned with the assembly of this card, and I actually want to make more of them so that I can perfect my method, if you will. And the first was that you have to make sure the staples don't have catch points. The second was that you have to make sure that if you've got an object coming up like that, the way that I glued the pillow down, it wasn't secure right there, and because the heads go below the pillow, they actually get stuck coming back up. So you have to make sure that you adhere that down really well and just eliminate any other catch points. And when you do that, I promise you, hopefully this card will come out better for you than it did for me. I'm really sad. I tried to fix it. I did. And I couldn't get the adhesive off. I have undo, and this is where it fell apart on me. And I have, see, it just comes apart, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. I ended up pulling the bottom piece out. I'm like, you know what? No, it's fine. I'm just gonna make another one. And yeah, I tried to fix it. I couldn't. So that's fine. It's sad because it's a waste of a really beautiful background, but that's okay. We live and learn, right? So here I did the things a little bit differently. So this piece, this die, on the first card, I didn't cut the notch out before I cut this out. Make sure you do that because I had it a little bit too close to the bottom. So then when I cut the notch out, I had to fiddle with it and not make it perfectly flush to the bottom of the card. And you can see here that I didn't use the stabilizer piece, and I just let it all kind of fly, and it seemed to work better because there was less stuff for it to catch on. It still caught. That's how I figured out why the first card had failed, was because I was testing it and I was very vigorous. I'm like, I'm just gonna keep doing this until I figure out why the first card didn't work. And I'm really glad that I did, because it was a learning experience for me for sure. And then I just started adhering all of my little pieces. So as you see here, you can see the little curly's head, and I wanted to hide it. So I took some of the clouds that came in my cloud borders that I used, and I kept them because they still look like clouds. You know how sometimes you have a border die and then the inside of it doesn't look like the shape that you cut out as the border? That is not the case with these. So I did keep them because I thought that I could use them in the background, and it ended up working out perfect because I could use them to hide the head. And here you can see that I'm trying to adhere down the pillow because it created a catch point. So I let that dry, and then I went about embellishing the rest of my card because I just had the one girl, and I kind of wanted to be like an ethereal look to the card. So I just put the clouds around, and of course it's already mounted on my card base. So after that, I just went around with my scissors and I cut off the excess. And if there was any loose pieces, I glued them back on. Now I am also using my Jelly Roll pen in white, number 10. And I use that to hide any of my coloring that I get outside of the lines. Because sometimes that happens. You know, maybe it's late at night and you just don't notice, and then you get color outside the lines. But you can clean it up really easy, so I don't let it bother me. And this is where I was saying that it kind of coordinated really nicely, because I have these accessories and I didn't realize that the two blankets are matching the accessories. So I thought that was really cute. This card is just a simple card with some dimension on it, and I was inspired because I don't know if there are any curlies out there. If you watch another YouTube channel called Mains by Mell, she is phenomenal, and she's got a Seester. Her name is Amanda, and these little gals kind of reminded me of them, and that's why I wanted a bit of a darker skin tone, because they are Italian, and unfortunately, it was a little bit too dark. However, I feel like they still kind of remind me of them, and they're the reason why I wear a bonnet to bed. For those of you wondering, that really is a thing when you're a curly. You wear a bonnet to bed. It's fabulous. It's silk. It feels great. I also sleep on a sleep pillow, or a silk pillow. Another thing that's great. It's great for your skin. I recommend it highly. Anywho, so that was the inspiration for this card. And that's it. Yeah, so that's the two cards. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Again, this is Crafting with Slavie. I want to thank you for joining me today. At the end of the video, there are some other videos for you to check out. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss the future videos, and hit the like button. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a great day. Bye.